I work as a store administrator, not for a very long time, but I have already managed to establish good relations with all my colleagues. In our free time, we used to talk, joke, and laugh together. Sometimes after work, we even went for a walk or went to a club. We formed a close-knit group that made the work environment pleasant and supportive. In general, I had no problems with the team. Only my boss sometimes got on my nerves. I don't know why, but she probably didn't like me, so she was constantly nagging me and asking me to do things that weren't my responsibility. She often gave me the most tedious assignments and monitored me more than anyone else. Despite her constant micromanagement, I tried to ignore it because other than that, I enjoyed my job. The coworkers were friendly and the work itself was enjoyable. I liked helping clients and solving problems, and I felt proud when I was able to solve a particularly difficult situation. Then I got sick and had to take a sick leave. All my coworkers called me and asked about my health and well-being. Even my boss checked on me, which was a little surprising. I could tell she didn't really care, but it was still nice to hear from her. It gave me a small sense of reassurance that maybe she didn't completely hate me. My boyfriend, on the other hand, sometimes forgot that I was sick. He would call me not to check on me, but to see if I could come over to his place or he to mine. He seemed more interested in company than in making sure I was on the mend. I was frustrated by his lack of empathy. I realized that things were generally going well at work, but not so well in my relationships. I felt disconnected from him, and his indifference during my illness only made things worse. I longed for someone who would show genuine concern and help me feel supported. What I didn't mention was that I had a guy named Ethan at work. We didn't work closely together, but we saw each other often, and I realized that I liked him. True, he was married, so I wasn't going to interfere in his life or break up his family. Nevertheless, that didn't stop us from having good conversations and enjoying our time together. We were always joking and having fun, and I could see that he enjoyed spending time with me too. There was an ease between us that I rarely saw in others. I loved that he made me feel valued and important, unlike my boyfriend who often took me for granted. One afternoon, as I lay in bed and missed my work, I thought about how nice it would be to get back into a routine and see everyone again. I missed the camaraderie, the laughter, and the sense of purpose that work gave me. Just when I was feeling a little better, the phone rang. I answered it. "Hi, how are you?" A familiar voice said. It was Ethan. "Hey," I answered. "I'm waiting to be discharged." "I'm waiting for you to open the door," Ethan said. I was confused for a second, but then I realized what he meant. I rushed to the door and looked through the peephole. He was already standing there with a bag of tangerines and other goodies. Seeing him, I immediately smiled. We chatted for a while, and I offered him some tea with the sweets I had brought. We sat in the living room, and he told me the latest news from work, who was slacking off, who was in trouble with the boss, and how everyone missed me. It was a little embarrassing, but I appreciated it more than I could express. It made me feel good to know that people were thinking about me. Suddenly, my phone rang again. I looked at the caller ID. It was my boyfriend. I didn't feel like answering it, so I just muted it. Ethan noticed this and grinned. "Why aren't you answering?" he asked. I just shrugged. "Trouble in paradise?" he teased. I rolled my eyes, but there was some truth to what he said. When the phone rang again, Ethan picked up and answered it for me, saying, "She's busy right now." He then hung up laughing. I was a little shocked at first, but his laughter was contagious, and soon I was laughing too. It made me feel good that there was someone who could make me forget my worries, even if only for a little while. We continued talking, and he stayed for another hour or so. He made me feel that I wasn't alone, that I had someone who genuinely cared about me. Before he left, he promised to visit me again if I didn't return to work soon. His visit made me realize how much I missed that sense of connection. After Ethan left, I couldn't help but replay our conversation in my head. There was something about the way he looked at me, the way he listened, that made me feel understood. It was a stark contrast to my boyfriend's behavior. Later, I called my boyfriend back and told him it was just a prank. He believed me, but I could tell he wasn't too happy about it. He seemed annoyed, and our conversation was short and strained. It was then that I realized how much different my interactions with Ethan were from my interactions with my boyfriend. Ethan brought out the best in me, made me laugh, and genuinely cared about how I was doing. My boyfriend, on the other hand, seemed more concerned with his own needs. That night I lay in bed and thought about everything that had happened. I realized that I couldn't keep feeling this way. I deserved to be with someone who cared about me, who wanted to support me and be there for me when I needed it. I didn't know what the future held for Ethan and me, but I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine in my relationship, even though it clearly wasn't. I needed to take my happiness into my own hands, even if I had to make some tough decisions to do so. Over the next few days, Ethan kept his promise and visited me again. We spent hours talking, laughing, and sharing stories. Each time he left, I felt a mixture of happiness and sadness because of the moments we shared in sadness, because I knew those moments couldn't last forever. Despite this, I cherished every second of it. It was like a breath of fresh air in the midst of everything I was feeling. I realized that I had been missing that sense of connection for a long time. I also started thinking more about what I wanted in my life. I wanted to feel loved and appreciated, to be with someone who truly cared about me and my well-being. The relationship with my boyfriend wasn't giving me that, and I realized that I couldn't continue down that path. It was time to make a change and put myself first for once. I had always tried to make relationships work and tried to make everyone happy, but now I needed to focus on my own happiness. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and subscribe for more content.